Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to what is going to be my first produced video in the UK in nearly 4 weeks. We're taking the advantage to travel in and around Europe. A lot of driving in Italy, which can be very stressful. But we are back. And the first thing that I always think to myself when I get back to the UK is, what the hell happened here? However, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to deliver our first from the UK in nearly 4 weeks daily market update. And I've missed talking to you guys on a daily basis. We are back to normal. We're going to be firing the content out. So make sure you become a subscriber. And these daily market updates are going to resume their daily production. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about the markets generally. When people start talking about World War III, it can often be a good time to step in, because on balance of probabilities, they're wrong and have been since the last World War. And on that case that it is a boy that cried wolf scenario, and I don't think it is in my own personal opinion, then you've got bigger things to worry about than perhaps just the markets. So we are going to be looking at that, looking at how the markets are reacting to all the geopolitical events. You know, we really took advantage of June and its kind of historic, choppy and lackluster price action for the cryptocurrency space. And that's been the case again today, despite everything going on. I think that's very telling. Then we're going to be talking about some huge news in regards to the Federal Reserve officially ending reputational risk oversight. There's this kind of thing taking place with the industry right now where it's up until this point not been able to actually blossom into one due to regulatory scrutiny. Those barriers are all being broken down, and I wonder why. And there's a great transition taking place in regards to value systems. So we will, of course, be looking at that. Also, the Fed has now confirmed implementation of ISO20022 compliance. And of course, SWIFT have set a this November deadline for people to transact over to that. And I think that sort of enables cryptos to play a role in the financial system more broadly. We'll look at some inflows. We've got a hell of a lot to get into. I wanted to start off with a tweet, and I looked at this on my Patreons on Sunday, of Paolo, who is the CEO of Tether. Circle killing it at the moment in regards to their stock. Now, this is the picture that he posted, and this is in relation to probably is probably an accurate representation of probably most retail and their feelings right now. Of course, this is Peter Griffin. This is the fatigue of the kind of choppy price action has probably led most people, certainly with the geopolitical events kind of compounding everything, to feeling very much like this. But I want to focus on Paolo for a second, and the company that he's built being the most profitable company to ever exist as far as per employee. And he's done that through utilizing and using this DLT technology. And that's the broader direction that the world is heading in. So despite retail sentiment being what it is, and I spoke to an institution just today that confirmed my narrative on everything, there's never been a better time to be in the cryptocurrency space. And I think a company like Tether is really a testimony to this industry's disruptive nature. It is, again, the most profitable company through solely harnessing this technology that has ever existed per employee, on a per employee basis, meaning that one employee in how many employees they've got in percentage of revenue that the company earns. That's the power of DLT, and never lose sight of that. You know, the value proposition here is everybody is going to use this technology, whether they know it or not, and we're very early on that adoption curve. And it can be hard for people to focus on that, and what my job is to get people to focus on that when we have the kind of bombardment and the psychosis that the general publics of the world feel due to bombardment on social media and news outlets and geopolitical events and Elon falling out with Trump and so on and so forth. Try and see the wood through the trees. And try and also understand, and we're going to move on to the geopolitical conflicts that are taking place right now, that the narrative that you've been told or led to believe, often at a later date you'll 180 on. Just like, you know, talking about sort of things that have historically happened in time, we often look back at and go, well, that wasn't quite, you know, something doesn't add up with that now that we've got the facts on the table and the narrative at the time wasn't perhaps the accurate one. And remember that in regards to everything that's taking place. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm going to reserve my opinion on the whole matters between Iran and Israel. But that could be the case today. So when you're willing to fall out with people over it, just remember that, you know, it always amazes me that people pick things to sort of argue about. And oftentimes when you hear both arguments, you kind of think, well, neither of these actually know what the hell's going on, really. So there is a lot going on in the world. Despite that, this has just been a typical June for the cryptocurrency space. I'm going to reserve my rights to comment on the whole situation and share my opinion on it. But it's a sad situation when any innocent people are involved and getting hurt as a result of a few decisions. A lot of it doesn't make sense. Some of it does, just as far as I'm concerned, and what this channel is here to do is look at the effects of it on the markets. And I think there hasn't really been any. And I'm just waiting for the S&P to go and put in a new high. That's where I can sort of breathe a sigh of relief after we ran and made a new low in what was the trend. This could lead to the trend being over. If it takes a high, well, your trend continuation is likely on. That's what we've been waiting for and said was probable with the S&P. Despite retail literally putting the period that we're in as, worst in regards to all the financial crashes that we've seen on the back end of Trump's tariffs. I think even in regards to the conflict, there's something interesting happening. Crypto plays a role in this in regards to value and beliefs around it, and certainly global monetary policies. And I think, if anything, what's taking place now, I don't think is going to result in World War III, but actually further pressure on the dollar and its dominance and potential role in tomorrow's world. And I think there's going to be more acceptable value systems than just the one. And an innovation that takes place with monetary systems. And we know Christine Lagarde, Jerome Powell, all signaling this in regards to their mentioning of Bretton Woods 2 or the Nixon shock and what led into that. So all these geopolitical events, I'm not here to comment on. I don't know the full stories. I happen to believe, though, that we shouldn't trust mainstream medias. And that can be dangerous in itself, because then the question is, well, what do you believe in an AI-driven world? I mean, some of the things I'm seeing is hilarious. We'll try and keep you as right on everything, not just in regards to the markets, but our opinions as possible here, for what it's worth. As far as the markets are concerned, this is really nothing. Even in regards to crypto, the sentiment in crypto is awful, yet Bitcoin's done spectacularly. And I think even when you look at altcoins, we'll just look at it through the lens of Turtle 2, there's been great progression towards us, and we've been riding this, and we've got, I think, that big wave to come for the cryptocurrency space. So despite everything taking place, the markets continue to climb. This is from Eric Balanchunas. SPY closed at 1% today, running out of doors for this meme. Sell America. It won't last. Sell in May. Moody's downgrading. June gloom. Trump Elon spat. Iran war. And I think, the markets continue to climb, because what alternative do they have? On balance of probabilities, people are wrong on World War III, and they have been since the prior World War. And they're going to continue to be. And there is that boy that cries wolf scenario. But then, you've probably got bigger fish to fry at that point in regards to things to worry about. And I think the markets know that. And we are seeing pretty tremendous inflows in regards to certainly ETF takings around the markets. You've got the VU, you've got the SGOV and the VTI, and then IBIT. So Bitcoin has been a huge success. I asked the institution I was talking to this morning, a big one, billions and billions of dollars in terms of capital managed. And I said, why are you so confident that institutions are coming into this industry? And he said, well, just look at the ETF and look at the inflows that we've seen. The fact that that's the most fast growing ETF in history tells you all you need to know about institutional demand, certainly towards Bitcoin. And I think there's a broader sort of spilling over to the space generally. So we are continuing to see markets engulf capital, because what's the alternative? In regards to what do you do with your cash? Do you just leave it there? Certainly with the kind of debt and monetary systems where they're at. Bitcoin is up 60% in the past 12 months, 6x the US stock market, and yet many are complaining, offering conspiracy theories. Serious question, what do you want? Expect? Where is the line to be happy and sad? I'm very happy with everything that we've achieved since we got back into the markets in 2023. Yeah, would I have liked some more? Of course. Would I have liked to have been super rich by now and for things to have happened now or already? Yeah, sure. But they haven't. Doesn't mean they're not going to, and that trajectory that we look at day in, day out isn't still in play. And people are generally not that happy. And Eric Manchunas goes on to say, I can make you feel better. 60-40 investors are up 8% in the past 12 months, and most think that's good, solid, considered the Q1 drama. It says it all, doesn't it? And I'm up on the majority of our portfolio and going to continue to be. And there's never been a better time to be in the cryptocurrency space. To bring up a BitGo tweet here, the only reputational risk with digital assets now is not being involved in the revolution. This is from Watcher Guru. Just in, Federal Reserve officially ends reputational risk oversight easing crypto banking regulations. Just in, the Fed has scrapped the rule that lets banks discriminate against Bitcoin. Federal Reserve Board announces the reputational risk will no longer be a component of examination programs in its supervision risk. Why is anybody who's everybody, governments, corporations, businesses generally, why are they all setting their hand towards the cryptocurrency space right here, right now? Meanwhile, retail looks like Peter Griffin in that picture that we showed you. The real story and narrative doesn't match up with sentiment whatsoever. And to me, that's an opportunity. Do you want to be an investor in the crypto space before everybody becomes one or after? You know, do you want to be here before they open the floodgates with ETFs for the altcoin sector or after? You guys have got to make that decision. Confirmed implementation of ISO20022 messaging format on July the 14th for the FedWire. This is a standard that actually has cryptos as part of it, which is the first really ever. And this is very interesting. We've looked at that and some of the cryptos potentially involved. We've looked at the S&P as it relates to Bitcoin, guys. The plan for me has never changed. And on each one of these dips, there's been a narrative and a sentiment and a reaction. But the broader trend, we've been right on and we're going to continue to be right on. And we're confident on that. We'll see if we're wrong eventually, and we'll admit it. But I think you've got higher prices, not just for Bitcoin, but the market as a whole ahead of us. Yes, there's chop and volatility. It's up to you guys whether you want to endure that or not. It's not for everyone in the cryptocurrency space. And in regards to inflows, we showed with IBIT, we're also seeing it in regards to broader distributed ledger ETPs, notably inflows in Solana and XRP, which still has that $19.27 price prediction ahead of it. We constantly get asked about that. Has it changed based on everything? The answer is no. And that's why we're a technical analyst, because we believe that technicals give you a far better understanding of where something's going than sort of news following and even perhaps fundamentals, because there's plenty of cases where fundamentals don't quite add up with price. But that's it from me. It's our first video back in the UK. Stop worrying about media narratives. Go into things with that broader understanding that you should question things and not just accept things as they are and why they're telling you things are happening, why they're not. But yeah, as far as the cryptocurrency space and markets more broadly concerned, we still believe risk on has a great time for it. That's a macro backdrop that sees the cryptocurrency spaces fly. I think, again, retail being made to feel the way that they do and feeling the way that they do at a time when you're literally, the Bloomberg analysts have upped their probabilities in 2025 of ETF approvals to some 95%. Doesn't make sense to me. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Never lose sight of that bigger picture. On that note, I'm going to see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. We're back to normal now.